Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. We all know how influential Joe Rogan is, and I think after the last election, Democrats are finally starting to learn exactly how powerful independent media is. And when it comes to the independent online media space, I think it's hard to deny that Joe Rogan is an industry leader. One single Joe Rogan podcast has the ability to reach more people than the entire mainstream legacy media. That is just a fact. I mean, just look at what happened in the 2024 election. Joe Rogan did a podcast with Donald Trump and it completely broke the internet. And a lot of people point to the YouTube video where the podcast got, I think, 49 or 50 something million views. It was 49 after election day. Now it's probably above 50. And so people always mention that number. They always point to that 50 million views. But it's a whole lot more than that if you count all the clips, all the different platforms that it's being played on. We're talking about hundreds of millions of impressions, maybe even over a billion. You know, he's the king of podcasts. He might even be the king of independent media. And like I said, Democrats have learned this. And now to their shock and dismay, they're learning that this podcast, basically the biggest show on the internet, well, how could I put this? It's now being weaponized against them. Joe Rogan is going full scorched earth against the Democrat Party and the mainstream media. Let me tell you, the sirens are going off at the DNC HQ. It's code frickin' red. Joe Rogan completely exposes the Democrat Party once again. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on and, of course, why Joe Rogan is totally right. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so let's just start off by playing this Joe Rogan clip. Just take a look.
There has been like wave after wave after wave of people leaving the Democratic Party. You know, I'm still seeing it online. Someone just yesterday posted some video and it was like, I'm done with you. I was like, how are you guys still shedding people?
You know, this is a buffalo drop. Do you know those buffalo jumps?
No.
You know what the Native Americans used to, one of the ways to hunt buffalo was to get them to the edge of a cliff and just run at them, and they just fall off the edge of the cliff, and then people would be waiting on the bottom, and they butcher them and eat them.
Okay.
We're in that pile of buffalo.
We're all being run off the cliff?
Yeah, they're going to go off the cliff. There's no way they're not.
Yeah.
They're not course correcting at all. You know, they're saying stupid shit. It's all nonsense. Like their understanding of social media and the dynamics that you set up by having completely state-controlled mainstream media where they only said the narratives that you guys wanted. They all said it in step. So you could watch different programs repeat the exact same words, exact same phrases. We know they got talking points. We don't trust you anymore. We don't trust the New York Times. We don't trust the Washington Post. We don't trust CNN or any of the MSNBC, where they're all full with propaganda.
Yeah.
And so that's why the internet rose. It's not because there was some sort of right-wing conspiracy and heavily funded. No, you guys suck.
He is absolutely right. The Democrat Party right now is like a fish out of water. And clearly they haven't figured out how to navigate this new environment. I like to call it the democratization of information. They just clearly haven't been able to adapt, and it feels like all that they're left with nowadays, as people are just ditching the Democrats, are the brainwashed Blue Anon shills. The Democrat Party has lost their monopoly on information, and it is totally destroying them. The entire media establishment, from CNN to MSNBC to the New York Times, was nothing but an extension of the DNC and the DCCC. And exactly as Joe Rogan points out, all of these outlets would just push the party talking points word for word.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about the trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories played in our country.
the sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories that simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The beginning of the end.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
The walls
It's a sign of a terrified old man who feels the
walls
closing in. The walls
are increasingly
Closing in on him.
tonight. The walls
They're closing in.
today changed everything. This is the beginning
Of the end.
today, the biggest
tipping point for the Trump administration.
That's exactly what Joe Rogan was talking about. How the mainstream media just parrots the exact exact same talking points over and over again, reading a script, zero originality, just essentially following the orders of the big Democrat bosses. The walls are closing in. The beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the end. Be careful of all the fake news on social media. And of course, this continues. This is what the media does. They just promote the DNC talking point. I mean, look at what's happening right now as the new talking point is being rolled out. We're in a constitutional crisis.
We are 3 weeks into the second Trump presidency, and tonight there are warnings that the U.S. is dangerously close to a constitutional crisis. Now, the first shoe on this dropped when a federal judge today said the White House is defying his order to unfreeze billions of dollars in federal aid, marking the first time that we've had a judge expressly accuse the Trump administration of ignoring a court ruling.
Instead of neutral reporting, this is what you get. Literal Democrat talking points shoved down your throats in an effort to defend these activist judges that are blocking or attempting to block the Trump-led audit of the Treasury Department. And I think people see it. And most importantly, I think they see the double standard and the hypocrisy. I mean, here's the hilarious part. The same people that are now screeching about a constitutional crisis apparently didn't care so much when Joe Biden was ignoring Supreme Court rulings on student loan forgiveness. They didn't care when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was literally calling for Joe Biden to ignore the court orders.
That I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. I think that the courts have the legitimacy and they rely on the legitimacy of their rulings. The interesting thing when it comes to a ruling is that it relies on enforcement. And it is up to the Biden administration to choose whether or not to enforce such a ruling.
I mean, give me a break. When Joe Biden ignores the law and clearly defies the Constitution, it's totally legitimate, it's totally fine. In fact, it barely makes the news. But when Donald Trump has activist judges who are overstepping a boundary, attempting to exact authority that they do not have, they don't have the ability to stop Donald Trump in his official acts as president. When the script is flipped, all of a sudden it's a constitutional crisis. No, it's not. It's a Democrat talking point. That's what it really is. And I'm pretty sure most people see it that way. And that's exactly what Joe Rogan is calling out. The Democrats and the corrupt, complicit mainstream media have been so utterly exposed, and everything they've built is falling apart. And that's why they're pushing this new constitutional crisis talking point. That's why they're panicking so much, because the power is being put back into the hands of the people. That's what's happening with these audits. The bureaucrats are losing, and the people's interest is coming first. And it's the same thing that Elon Musk did when he bought Twitter and gave the power of information and conversation back to the people. And more people are realizing this. And to make matters worse, to add insult to injury, now Joe Rogan is pointing out these facts to his massive audience online. I don't know about you guys, but to me it seems like the cat is finally out of the bag. And I think the Democrats are going to struggle to put it back in. Oops. I guess you blue anon shills should have just played the game fairly to begin with. I guess you should have stuck to telling the truth instead of building your propaganda empire. I don't feel bad in the slightest, because they simply did it to themselves.
You played yourself.
Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.